Are you about to go on your first Norwegian cruise? Well, here are a few things you need to know before sailing on a Norwegian ship. Ahoy, travelers! It's Amy with Cruising from the Ozarks here with another tip to help you make your vacation a success. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It only takes a second, and doing so helps cruisers like you find us. As a reminder, we recently got back from our first cruise on a Norwegian ship. And some of this video is going to be specific to the breakaway, and some is going to apply to Norwegian in general. I mentioned this in a previous video, but one thing we really enjoyed about Norwegian is that if you have the drink package, it's unlimited, and you can order more than one drink at a time. Now, you may think, good grief, why would I need 2 drinks at a time? Why would I need to drink an unlimited amount of booze? I'm not going to drink that much. Well, here's why it was so convenient. If bar service is slow, which oftentimes it can be depending on the bar, you can already have your second drink waiting for you. And I only did that one time, but it was nice to have it. It was in the Atrium, and there was so many people there that was just taking those poor bar waiters a long time to get around to you. So I just ordered 2, had the second one there waiting, didn't have to worry about trying to flag someone down. But the big thing of being able to order 2 at once is if you're with someone else, one person can stay behind to save your seat. And then since it's unlimited, you don't have to worry about that the person you're sending to the bar is coming close to their limit for the day by getting 2 drinks at a time. We did this quite often. We would be somewhere that was hard to find a seat. People were waiting to get seated, especially in the atrium. Or if we were out on the waterfront, we didn't want to have to worry about losing our spot. You'd send one person to go get your drink, and then you didn't have to lose your seats. Since many people get this free seat package, which includes drinks, this is a really good perk to be aware of. Before we get to more of my tips after sailing on the Norwegian breakaway, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're a new channel and could really use your support to help us reach more cruisers like you. Like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps our channel out with the YouTube algorithm. And then make sure you also ring that notification bell so you don't miss on any future posts. If you're looking for a nice place to relax, one that is relatively quiet, the Waterfront has some great, comfortable seating. Whether it is a sea day or you just choose to stay on the ship while at port, you can usually find a comfortable place on the waterfront to relax, read a book, take in the sea, whatever you like to do. They have loungers with cushioned seating, and you can really stretch out and enjoy your time. But if you want to make sure that you get one of these loungers, you're going to want to get there early, especially on a sea day. Now, like most cruise lines, Norwegian gives passengers a card to use for basically everything on the ship. It's your room key, you use it to purchase anything on board, you need it to check into restaurants, and to even get on and off the ship at port. Now, this means that you need your card with you at all times. I have always preferred using a lanyard to keep track of my card, and on Carnival, the cards come with a convenient little hole punch in the corner so you can attach it to your lanyard. And that's what I've always done. We always just attached it right to the end of the lanyard like this. Since we usually have the drink card, having this detachable end would have made it really easy, so you could just hand this to the bartenders and then they could hand it back to you, and usually they know it's yours because they remember this is specific to you. Super convenient. You're not losing it. It's very easy to get this off. Even if you just want to unclip it, you can easily unclip it and then hand it over. When we were given our cards on Norwegian, there was no hole punch. There was no hole in the corner. And since we hadn't needed a card holder before, neither of our lanyards had one. So this little plastic card holder, I didn't have it. I tossed it. I didn't need it. And I don't even know if this lanyard actually came with one, to be fair. So I didn't have it. I just had the hook. I expected it to have a nice little hole on it. It didn't. No problem. I thought I'll just go down and see if guest services has a hole punch that I can, get them to hole punch my card. And when I told them that's what I was wanting, they said that their cards were too sensitive to put a hole in them. Look, I do not believe that. Please tell me the difference in these cards. There's none, except for one came with a hole punch and one is too sensitive for a hole punch. They're the same. It's a bar reader. That's all it is. And there's a UPS symbol on the other side. I don't know which one it's being read, but either way, you can easily put the hole punch very far away from both. You would just put it right here, no problem. Because Norwegian wouldn't let us put a hole in our card and made their claim that it was too sensitive, we couldn't use that. We couldn't use our lanyards. We couldn't use the lanyards that we brought, we've always used, and it made it harder to keep track of our cards. And at that point, we thought, well, okay, we'll pick up some from Norwegian in the shop. Can't imagine that they wouldn't have a lanyard that said Norwegian or the Breakaway or something like that on it. Like this one says Belize. Thought they'd have something like that in their shops. They didn't. Now they had they had some cell phone holders that had huge pockets at the end, and they were selling those. And I think that some people were buying those to use, but I don't need that. My phone's waterproof. I don't need a waterproof giant case. That's not what I want. I wanted just something with a little sleeve on the end. I thought this was just absolutely crazy. You would think that they would want to have the lanyards for first time cruisers and just for people who wanted a souvenir from the ship. Now, Mom ended up finding these at Belize, and they had this at the end. I ended up buying it, but then putting it on my lanyard because I preferred my lanyard just because it's my lanyard and it's my Harry Potter Ravenclaw lanyard. So we got those. But the problem is, even with that, it's not convenient because it's very hard to get the card out of this plastic sleeve because they're designed to keep your card secure. So now every time you wanted to use it, you're trying to get this open and trying to get your card out, and it wasn't easy. If I was going to use this again, I'd probably cut a little notch out just on one side so that I could kind of slide the card out. But it was very, very inconvenient and was totally unimpressed. I actually ended up most of the time just using my crossbody purse that I have, and it's got a little card holder right in the front, and I would just leave my card in here and pull it out and put it back in just because it was so inconvenient to actually use my lanyard. But now I had to carry an entire purse around, and I don't do that often on the ship. In the evenings, yes, but not usually all day. So it became a constant battle with, do I use a lanyard? Do I not? What do I do? So all that to just tell you, if you've only sailed on ships that have cards with hole punches, like I've only sailed on Carnival before and they automatically hole punch it for you, just be aware of the situation. I'd love to hear from anyone who has sailed on Royal, MSC, Celebrity, any other line that uses ship cards. Do they come with a hole punch in it? Or will they allow you to hole punch them? If they don't, I would just really love to know. So please drop a comment below. I need to know these things. I need to know before I go on another cruise what the card sitch is. One of the things that confused me the most prior to actually getting on the Breakaway was how the reservation process worked. Whether it was for the theater or the restaurants, I just couldn't find anyone that really explained the process. None of the videos I watched ever mentioned it in detail. Like they would say, oh, you got to reserve this or you should go do this. But I just was, I never really could find a video that fully explained this. I knew that we were going to have to make reservations as soon as we got on board if we wanted to make sure that we got to see Six. That was the one show I wanted to see on board. and it really stressed me out. And the last thing that I wanted to be stressed about on day one of the cruise was whether or not I could get to see the one show that I wanted to watch. It turned out that I didn't need to worry, but I like to be prepared. I research things. New situations are they're just uncomfortable to me if I don't feel prepared. So I do tons of research and I just never could really figure this out. And just after we got back from our cruise, Norwegian announced that they were going to start letting people book the theater prior to embarkation. So some of this doesn't have to apply to you anymore. However, if you don't get your reservations done ahead of time, you can still use the digital kiosks to book various things around the ship, including the shows. We knew the kiosks existed, and we knew that they were supposed to be in some of the main areas of the ship. What you need to know is that there are kiosks all over the place. One of the easiest places to find one is at the landing of each stairwell between the stairs and the elevators. At least it was on the breakaway. So there's no need to like stand in line when you first board the ship to make reservations, whether it's for show, dining, or the spa, because there's plenty of other kiosks that you can go and find. Norwegian prides itself on its freestyle dining, although we found it wasn't quite as freestyle as what we were used to. Every single restaurant on the breakaway required you to check in prior to being seated. There's no quick eats place where you can just get in line and grab something except for the buffet. And even the breakaways included restaurants like O'Sheehan's and the Noodle Bar require you to check in with a hostess and wait to be seated. So don't think that you can just walk in and grab a seat. Not like we tried to at O'Sheehan's on day one. We just walked in, grabbed a seat, and they had to tell us that no, that's not how this works. So just be aware, you have to go check in at the hostess. While you can make reservations for the main dining rooms, this isn't necessary if you're willing to wait. You shouldn't have to wait long, and you may be directed to try one of the other dining rooms because they have 3 working in the evening and then 2 during the day. Now, this I found was confusing because online you could book the main dining rooms and they only gave you like 2 times to choose from. So this all became very confusing to me because everybody's like, oh, it's freestyle. You just go dine whenever you want to. But why, if I could dine whenever I want to, was then Norwegian putting on their website the ability to make reservations, but only at 2 times. So it really wasn't complicated and you could just show up whenever you wanted to, but they make it confusing if you go into the reservation system online and find out that you can actually make reservations. So just be aware, you don't have to do that. We ended up canceling one of the ones that I had booked prior to getting on the ship because we wanted to do something else, go to a different restaurant. I can't even remember now. But just be aware, it's available, completely unnecessary. I did see one time when we were going to one of the dining rooms, somebody was telling somebody else, hey, we're full up. You can either wait 20 minutes or you can go to the one across the way. I can't remember if it was Taste or Savor, but you're not going to have to wait long. The breakaway, like many Norwegian ships, has multiple main dining rooms, like I just said. The Manhattan is probably what you're used to when you think of a main dining room. It's really big and open with a stage for live entertainment, but it's only available in the evening for your evening meals. And it was definitely our preference when dining in the evening. We preferred going to the Manhattan. Savor and Taste are twin dining rooms that are smaller, they're more intimate. Now, we actually ate on these most mornings for breakfast and then at lunch. All 3 dining rooms are going to have the same menu, so just try them out, see which one you like best. On port days, if you want a relaxing breakfast while watching the ship come into port, and for us, we had several late port mornings where it was like 11 o'clock, I would pay attention to where we were coming into port, which side the island was on, and then choose the restaurant that was on that side so that we could then go sit by a window and watch the ship as it came into port. Don't think that it's always going to be the actual port side of the ship because it wasn't that way every time. Taste or Savor, whichever one would have a great view. You can go in there, watch the ship come in. It's pretty fun. If you want to get a seat in the atrium for any of their activities, you're going to need to get there early. Unfortunately, the atrium on the breakaway just is not big enough for a lot of the events and activities that they schedule there. First thing in the morning, there's going to be plenty of seats, but by the time lunch is over, it really begins to fill up, and then seats become harder to find. There's not a lot of seating in there. And if you're wanting to enjoy one of the activities scheduled in the atrium in the evening, you're going to need to get there early and then wait for a seat to open up and then pounce. And by early, I mean up to an hour early. Sometimes we found it easier than others, and I think that was dependent on what was going on before an event. Like, they had everything scheduled up, and it might be just live music, and it wasn't anything that anybody wanted, that was really a big draw. And that might be before something like the Battle of the Sexes, which is a huge draw, but you would need to get there and then sit through the live music to actually see what you wanted. That's just an example, but you just have to look at what's going on during the day and really gauge what time you're going to need to get there if you want to actually get a seat. And even at that time, a lot of times you're watching to see if somebody leaves an event prior so that you can then grab the seat. You'd find all kinds of people circling like sharks, just waiting for someone to stand up so you could try to grab their seat. If you're sailing out of the Port of New Orleans, you're going to want to watch my video on the embarkation process and Norwegian's cruise terminal at the Port of New Orleans. You'll especially need my detailed explanation on parking and luggage drop-off. So go watch that video. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I have more videos coming out about the breakaway, Norwegian, and our adventures in port. Why don't you go ahead and check out this video on cruising as an introvert and then come back next week for another video designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.